call the Council Committee meeting of March the 4th to order. Mr. DeLeone, Mr. Kuhar, Mr. Turner, and Mr. Ferrara asked to be excused for tonight's meeting. We do have 5, so we're legal to vote on anything. Am I correct?
You're correct.
All right, thank you.
That's never happened since I started.
And to further the complication, we will not be entertaining the City Hall project update. That has been canceled, so we're going to go right into streets and sidewalks. Mr. Sidoti.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Before I begin, because I know I can't speak to any of these as the chairman of the committee, I want to say one thing that in talking with people in the community about roads and sidewalks here, the importance of passing our renewal. I think a lot of people don't realize that it's been the work that both Jim Bowling has done and Melanie has done to keep our roads and keep moving ahead and basically raising dollars. I think that someone needs to stand up and say thank you. I think that it goes, usually they get all the complaints. So I figure as the chairman, I'm going to pull rank and I'm going to say thank you. And I think the people in the community, once you speak with them, they get it, that we got to renew that. And we got to continue to work on these. So our first one is Main Street Kent Berbick Way lighting agreement. Mr. Bowling.
Go ahead. You got it.
And you're welcome. It's a pleasure to serve, and our staff feels the same way. So
Well, we appreciate you.
So we've been working with Main Street Kent. Actually, I've been a little bit lagging on it, and Heather's too nice to say anything about it. But they've been working to get overhead decorative lighting across Berbick Way, and they contacted us to see how that could be done. So what we did was come up with the agreement that was sent out to you, which basically says that Main Street Kent will install, operate, and maintain lights across Berbick Way. They'll enter into a license agreement with the city since it's in the right-of-way. The city will permit them access to the power at the existing light poles. There's 2 in that area for no cost for the lighting. And specifically, then the adjacent property owners will allow for Main Street Kent to attach the support systems to their buildings. So we're requesting council's approval to execute that agreement with Main Street Kent and the property owners.
Any questions? Yes, Heidi.
Yes. Are there any residents in the upper floors of these buildings that might be impacted negatively by light pollution?
I do not believe so that
They're
there's,
businesses.
yes.
They're all businesses.
No residents?
No, not in that part.
Okay.
The top of skulls and the top of cookies. There's artist studio spaces above skulls, but there's no living. Not that there should be. That's an acorn corner.
Okay. Other questions from
Thank you.
council? Any other? Heidi, anything else?
Nope.
No. Gwen?
On the cost, is this a shared cost between the city and Main Street?
The only thing shared is that the city will provide the power. Main Street will pay for all the installation, the upkeep, and maintenance of the lights.
Ooh, that sounds like a good deal.
We thought so too.
It's kind of a no-brainer, right? like that renewal. Other questions from council? Seeing no other questions, anyone from the audience wish to speak to this issue? Main Street, you wish to speak to this issue? Okay. Back to council.
Move to authorize with emergency.
Second.
Any other comments?
I just, as somebody who travels that way in the evenings, I think it's going to really enhance that corridor, and kudos to, the idea. As long as it doesn't impact anybody negatively, I think it's going to be a positive addition to our downtown.
Gwen? Anything?
No, just that I think it sounds like a lovely idea. I'm looking forward to seeing it next.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed, same side. Cool, thanks, Jim. Are you up again?
Yes, I believe so.
I assume that. So we have the proposed City KSU East Main Street project.
And Jim's there, but I'll go ahead. I wanted you to know I was at the Kent State trustee meeting today where they also took up the same agreement that you're going to be looking at, because it's a multi-party agreement, and PARTA as well. And PARTA has already, their board has already approved it. This afternoon, Kent State approved it, so hopefully we'll get 3 for 3 if all goes well here tonight. But this is to it sort of creates the partnership in a legal form so that now as we go forward with this project and the funding and the shared split costs, et cetera, it kind of has the template to use for that throughout the project. It's essentially the same format we use for Summit Street. So I'll let Jim. There's a great video. I don't know if he's can get it to us or there's I think it's fairly new, right? It's newer than the one that there was one shown in here a ways back, but now this one it's even better. So it looks great. Project looks great.
This is the actual continuation of the agreements we've already had in place to do the planning. This moves us on to doing the design. And we'll actually finish the planning, which is going to take us at least another 12 to 15 months, and then move on to the detailed design. It also, this step we move forward with because we did receive $14.6 million from the different grant sources that we went after to move forward the project. And the cost for this design is split 90% by the federal government sources, 5% by KSU, and 5% by us. So we're just requesting your approval to continue this project moving forward.
Questions from council? Yep. Yes, Tracy.
Do you know when the next meeting's going to be?
No, not yet.
Okay.
We have to get the agreement signed so that we can get the consultant on board so that we can actually have another meeting.
Other questions? Seeing none, back to audience. Any questions? Seeing none, back to council.
Move to authorize.
Second, with emergency?
Do you need emergency?
Yes, please.
With emergency.
I thought I
Second.
heard that. So
I said that.
yeah, I know. Any other comments? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Tree City Planning Staff Report. Melanie.
Yeah, this item, actually, we're kind of giving you a little more than you asked for, but honestly, kind of proud of a lot of the tree work that we've done in the last year. And I think this started out mainly with, hey, we're coming into the season when is there a way to give free seedlings out and promote the climate benefits of trees and plants. And so yes, there's an answer to that, but there's more because we really haven't had a chance to kind of run you through some of the work that was done. We call it sort of our mini reforesting of Kent in a couple areas. So hopefully you'll appreciate that and take some value from it, and Melanie can talk us through it.
So I'm very disappointed I could not get the computer working because I had a great presentation. It would have only been an hour long, but no, I'm just kidding. So I just wanted to take a step back too, because sometimes we forget the simple stuff. And so when I came in 2016, and Brad McKay couldn't be with us tonight because he's actually going to get some additional training. He is our city arborist. So he's down in Columbus right now doing a tree risk assessment qualification. So that should really help us. We have a lot of well-established trees here, and we always get that question, is this tree going to fall down? Is it dangerous? Is it those kinds of things? So he's down getting that training this evening. But when we got here, this was, as you know, a very well-established Tree City USA. This year, we will receive our 35th year award of being a part of Tree City USA, and that's a part of the Arbor Day Foundation. You are required here, just to give everybody a quick background, we have to have a tree commission, a tree ordinance, you have to spend at least $2 per capita, an active tree program, and then, of course, our mayor has to acknowledge Arbor Day. And we do all of those qualifications every year and then some. So our brush chipping counts towards that, our tree collection of the Christmas trees. Those are all kinds of things that they promote. They want us to be doing those kinds of things to encourage recycling and reuse. In 2017, when we got here, we updated the tree inventory. Our predecessor took a great care of our trees here, and so when Brad got here and I got here, we were really walking into a well-maintained group of trees. In addition to being a Tree City for 35 years, we've also taken the Growth Award 4 years. That was 2018 and 7, 13, 15, and 18. And that requires us then to do some different projects where we increase our tree growth, and we do things such as the reforesting project. So we're really proud that we're able to take care of doing that. We did start in 2017 the question about tree saplings being given away. That was done in conjunction with Arbor Day and the Who's Your Mama Festival. So we actually set up a booth there. That's always been set up, and it's kind of for stormwater, but we also initiated and put the trees in there. So we've been giving those away for 3 years. Last year was the first time we kind of heard we'd love to have a tree, but we don't want to walk around with it. So this year the Tree Commission decided that what we're going to do is that we've picked, I want to say, 6 different weekends, and they're going to be at the farmers market, and we'll be advertising that at the Who's Your Mama Festival. It's in the Tree, or should be in the Tree City Bulletin, and we'll get the word out on the kiosk out front. And we're going to actually take a little bit larger tree saplings that are going to be about 4 to 6 feet, a little more established, larger. They may be in some small buckets, just to help them get established a little bit more. But people can come there, and we do have a lot of residents that attend that. So then we decided in 2018, Brad came up with the idea, there were several large areas that were still open. And he wanted to do a project that was beneficial both to central maintenance, but is also to the trees. In a lot of the areas where we have open land, the 2 that you have in front of you, Ivan, and then there's a large retention pond off of Hampton Road, that we have to mow and maintain, which takes a lot of man hours to do. So what he did was work with Davey Tree, the area, and the city engineers to come up with a plan to reforest those. So on Ivan alone, we planted over 300 trees. We were able to get those in, all within our current and existing budget, so we didn't have to ask for more. We had great buy-in from the residents on that in 2018. They actually came out, they helped plant some of those, and they're actually watching them and maintaining them for us, so they let us know what's going on. On Hampton Road, we had a large retention basin. It was pretty open. You could kind of see into it, not very pretty, not very good with habitat and those kinds of things. So we're able to lessen our mowing. We couldn't fill the whole thing in because it is designed for stormwater retention, but we were able to do a great job along the outside edge of that. In addition to that, I have to compliment engineering. A lot of times they're all about getting in there, taking everything down, putting in the new road and utilities, and if there was a tree there, you know. But they do a great job, and I really have to commend engineering because they don't always think of these things, but look at Summit Street alone. Over 100 trees were put back into that. Really changes the look of that. Main Street will be something like that. And even as small as our projects, such as Valley View or down on Cedar Street, you know, there were only 4 or 5 that were removed. I think there were 8 on Cedar, but we made sure that we put those back in and we redid those. In addition to that, there are still right-of-way plantings that are done every year, and that's between 50 and 70 trees are planted. And of course, if you noticed last fall, quite a few of the downtown trees that were empty were replanted as well. So those are just kind of some of the things that we're doing. We do plan on looking at Haymaker, which I think was thrown out to us at the last meeting. That is our next point that we'll be looking at this year for reforesting.
Very good. Any questions for Melanie? Yeah, or comments? Yeah. Go ahead. Gwen first, then Heidi.
Oh, I just want to say it's fantastic. It seems like we're being really proactive. We're planting a lot of trees. I think it's great. Anytime we can plant trees so that we mow less and use less gas is an absolute win. And I'd also just like to encourage residents too that we're setting a fine example, I think, for planting trees. And as a resident, if you want to improve your property values and appearance, you too can plant a tree. Mm-hmm. And there's some affordable options at the Portage County Soil and Water Conservancy. They have annual tree sales, very, very affordable, and they don't live forever. So as our trees age, unfortunately, you have to make plans to replace them, even if they're big and beautiful. So always keep planting, I think, is the motto. But thank you very much.
You're welcome. And that's a great resource, if I can just add to that, along with if anybody has any questions about what trees they should be planting in their yard or what kind of trees. Some people have wet areas. There's trees more, sustainable in those areas, as well as the dry and shaded areas or existing shaded areas. They can call Brad. He'll come out and take a look at it. He can give them some advice on different species to put in as well.
Can I have some follow-up?
Sure. You can ask a question this time.
It is a question this time,
okay.
Yeah. For specific regulations on tree lawn trees or types of trees, is there something that residents need to know or a resource? Like, can we plant whatever we want on a tree lawn, or are there certain things, or where would we find that?
No, that's where you actually have to call in, and you need to work with Brad on that. There is a list of trees that already exist that we do allow in the road right-of-way. Those are being looked at. We are lucky to have somebody that works for Davy Tree on our Shade Tree Commission, so they're going to be reviewing that to make sure that those are the best trees for the areas that we have.
Thank you.
Heidi?
Just, this, I want to go and walk around on this land and look at the trees that we planted, this nice
Right
variety of
behind
trees.
Burger King.
Is that possible to do?
Yeah,
Is this a
walk
city-owned
from
property?
Burger King. I've been there, done it.
Is
Park
there
in
any
Burger King and walk
markings that
in.
indicate that it is a city-owned city-owned land?
There's nothing that indicates that
I don't think so.
So, maybe residents would enjoy knowing that there is an arboretum or whatever in the neighborhood. It's an amenity for the neighborhoods in this, on the south end, and we could always use a few more little pocket parks, or this looks like a little bit more than a pocket park. But it's not, it seems like it would be a nice place to hike around. No walking trails, though.
If you will, there's a man-made where they had walked through that gets you from Ivan out to, say, Burger King and then to 59, but there's no other trails other than that. And it's really kind of just designed so that it'll grow and be a tree canopy, and more for those residential neighbors if they want to come in and enjoy the shade and stuff.
I want to comment that it is a rather nice thing to do for a residential neighborhood, to screen from a commercial area. Thank you.
Yes, Tracy?
Yeah, I wanted to ask, who's your mama? It's great that we're advertising it, Who's Your Mama, but that doesn't tend to be a very well-attended event. Could we maybe think about doing something at the city booth at the Heritage Fest? Maybe have some sort of a, I don't know, sign that says help combat global warming by planting a tree, and then maybe have some seedlings there too that we could deal with. And also when you do the booth at the Saturday market, could you put some sign up that says help, something like help, combat global warming by planting a tree, things like that, climate change by planting a tree. And it might be nice too, it's really nice that we're doing all these plantings, but it might be nice to somehow advertise it. And I don't know how we could advertise it more thoroughly, but for example, when you're driving down a highway, there's signs that say, taxpayers' money is being spent on this or something like that. So could we put maybe signage up that says, your city is concerned about trees, so we're planting trees, or letting people know that we're planting trees, because most residents, I don't think, know how many things we actually do with the trees and stuff like that. Is there some way we could advertise more thoroughly so people know?
We can certainly take a look at those as far as the signs at our booths or at Heritage Fest. That's something easy. We can certainly put that together. And
the website.
my presentation, I couldn't blow up those pictures. That looked great. And we can certainly
On the
do that. The website is certainly another place that we can begin that advertisement.
Maybe we
And
have some flags, how they have flags come up that say help combat global warming,
Sure.
plant a tree. We have trees that you can pick from.
Absolutely.
Okay, other comments from council? Any comments from our community? Back to council, do you need anything other than receive?
Thank you.
Thank you, Melanie.
It's like really nice to find out about all
Right.
the trees that are being planted.
Yeah, great report. Now, the last one we have is proposed Kent Craft Brew Fest special event, and
Yeah,
I know
I'll be-
Harrison isn't here.
Yeah, he's a bit unavailable,
Yeah.
so I'm happy to talk about it, and we've got two of his co-conspirators from the JCs that are here, and they could be happy to answer questions. I told them it's great that you're here. I'm not sure we need you. They're in the bullpen if you need them, because this is fairly simple. The JCs they're just basically requesting a relocation of the area that they used last year on Water Street, North Water Street, for the Craft Brew Fest. It was a great success, and they want to repeat it, and they would like to be able to move it down to Franklin, and it's in the packet, the location, and Harrison was saying he thought it might get bigger, but tonight they were saying, I'm not sure, we've got Shuffle and Brew companies, so we'll see if it's bigger or not, but regardless, it was a good event for the downtown, and they're basically just asking you for your authority to the area of the street that they're going to block off. It's no longer going to be on North Water Street, it's going to be down in Franklin, so they're here to answer questions if you got any specific.
Yes, Gwen.
Do they have a plan for garbage pickup and removal?
Here comes our,
Well, Harrison's not here, so Harrison will be responsible for all
I
garbage.
say, the bar's been set pretty high with Main
Yeah.
Street Kent events, where there's the cardboard containers and the garbage bags, and it's all removed. I just want to make sure that there's some kind of trash removal, or
We had
that,
all of that last year. We also had a dumpster in the back. It was all put back, taken out within the day.
because last year I thought that I saw, you had a trash removal company last year? Okay, maybe I'm confusing.
We had Kimball.
Maybe I'm
And so the
confusing it
dumpster
with
was
another
behind the
event.
bank. And so we moved everything that night, everything off the street into the dumpster. It was picked up, had to be picked up because we had all our employees parking there Monday morning. So it was
Okay.
picked up on Sunday.
All right, so it won't be the city's obligation then for
No.
any of that trash removal or anything like
Absolutely
that? Okay, thank you.
Tracy.
Yeah, I was curious, why did you move it off of North Water down to Lincoln?
The initial reason we moved it was because we thought North Water was going to be under construction. So due to the fact that North Water is no longer under construction, or at that time, we could have kept it there, but I think that Franklin Avenue is more of a better home for this due to the fact that the restaurants are there, the bars are there. And so I think that's a better home for this in the fact that also if it rains, there's ability, there's a lot less ability on North Water. If it rains on Franklin Avenue, you can go into Trano, Ray's, Taco Tano's, Venice, Dominic's, anywhere for just spend a half hour, 45 minutes, whatever, come back out and enjoy the rest of the festival. So
I think too that the event logistics that work a little bit better because our home base is the train car, so it's in that same vicinity. The Hometown Bank was gracious enough to let us use part of their building for that last year, but I think it was sort of an overreach. So logistics, it's a good positive move too.
Other questions from council? Seeing none, any questions from the audience? Seeing none, back to council.
Move to approve.
Second?
Any other
With the
comments?
With emergency?
With
Do you need
emergency?
Yeah, with emergency.
Second?
I just assumed that. Any other comments from council? Yes, Heidi.
Yes, another great event for Kent. This time I'm buying a ticket in advance.
A wise move. Okay, seeing no other comments, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, and Mr. Mayor, I'm done.
Okay, community development, Mr. Kuhar is absent, so co-chair Rosenberg, Ms. Rosenberg, you'll take it.
Yes, I will. All right, up first is Main Street Kent 2019 Year-End Review.
Yeah, the year is in the books, and they've compiled a nice presentation and a nice sort of summary report, and we try to do this every year because it's easy to lose track. There's so much going on, and more every year. So this is a nice chance to kind of just be refreshed, I think, sort of like planting the trees. There's so much we don't often know, all the good things that are going on, and Heather and Leslie are here, and Tom is a part of the Main Street organization too. So with that, I'll let them carry the night.
Well, Heather's the real star, but I'm going to do a quick intro, maybe. Well, like all members of city administration, I enjoy every aspect of my job, but I enjoy my relationship with Main Street Kent the most for a variety of reasons. First and foremost is these two people sitting right here. Heather and Leslie are the most professional and creative people we could have for an organization like this, and no idea is too out of the box for them, except for Krampus. But that's a whole different story. But a great staff. We're very blessed to have them. And then we also have an extremely active and involved board. I've never seen a board like it. I've been members of many boards, both here in Kent and down in Holmes County and in previous roles. And this board, they volunteer their time, their effort, their ideas, their thought process, their money at times. There's a couple here tonight to express their support for Main Street Kent, and it's a board meeting once a month that I actually look forward to going to. So, just like council, by the way.
Thank you.
And then on top of the board, we have extremely strong committees that have other members of the community involved that are not on the board, that bring special talents and commitments to the various aspects of Main Street that Heather's going to talk about shortly. And then one of the things that just amazes me when you go to these events, the Art and Wine Festival, the Oktoberfest, and which one am I missing? Wesley World of Kent especially, is the diversity of the volunteers that these events attract and the number of volunteers. But there are young and old, they're from the university, they're from the city. It's just an amazing group of volunteers. There's always a last minute, kind of rush to get the last few volunteers for 10 o'clock at night, but usually most of the volunteer slots are filled up well in advance of these major events, and it's a testament to the organizational skills of Heather and Leslie and the belief and trust that people have in these events that they will make a difference in the city of Kent. And then finally, I just want to I'm the representative of the city that's on that board, and I can assure you that your investment in Main Street Kent is a sound investment, and you get many, many returns from that investment that you make in Main Street Kent. So with that, let me bring Heather up. She can tell you a little bit more.
Warm welcome. You hear me now? Good? Okay. So I've been here for 8 years now, and the size of the font that I have to use on this report is growing as we go. So thank you for the opportunity to share some high points of our 2019. For supporting the organization for 14 years, we've been up and running. I still continue to have one of the strongest, if not the strongest program in the state of Ohio, and I'm proud of that. It's fun, it's rewarding, it's important work. There is never a dull moment. Our downtime is officially dead. There used to be this moment of catching our breath in January, and it just doesn't exist anymore. So job security is a good thing, and our work is never finished, and that's what's most exciting about the work we do. So first I'll go through some highlights from 2019, give a kind of a sneak peek to a few things we're up to for 2020, and then share some comments about Main Street Kent from some of our local businesses. And then if you have questions or if you need to interrupt me, feel free. Our operations committee is our executive team, and we took the time to go through a strategic planning session again this year. It had been a couple years. We had some new board members. And we really wanted to keep things simple and impactful. When people asked what's our mission statement, no one could say it. So we came up with a new transformation strategy, and that is Kent is people's first choice. Bottom line, we want them to think of Kent first. Mission statement is making downtown Kent a fun, vibrant, and thriving place, period. That's everything we do needs to be aiming us in that direction. We kind of redefined our Main Street Kent goals as an organization, so all of our committee goals need to fall under those goals or they just don't make sense. So there's 3: preserve and enhance the historic downtown, generate awareness and branding of MSK and downtown, and then maintain financial stability. So again, all of our committee goals need to make sense under those or they're just not going to happen. So our volunteer connection and appreciation efforts are under the operations committee. So recruiting new volunteers and making sure the ones we have stay because we treat them right. So we have an award celebration at the Kent Historical Society in June, which we see many of you all there because it's always a lot of fun. And then a volunteer appreciation party at Ray's Place in October. So we did that. We accumulated over 2,669 hours, and I say over that because I certainly can't count I have no idea how much time people are really spending on stuff. Robin alone, probably on Wizardly World of Kent, spends that. So the average value of a volunteer hour is $24.69, so over $65,000 in volunteer time was given to Main Street Kent in 2019. Friends of Main Street, we have over 100 small businesses, organizations, and individuals that donate money to us, and that continues to grow. We have our top supporters, number one, obviously the City of Kent, and then our other top supporters are Ron Burbick, the Hometown Bank, Portage Community Bank, Smithers Oasis, the Davy Tree Expert Company, and College Town Kent. And there's lots others underneath those, but those are the top supporters. Moving on to marketing, last year we spent every penny of a $38,000 budget on marketing, and that does not include any of our events. Every event has its own marketing budget. We had a mini makeover of our website. We have somebody working on it weekly on search engine optimization to make sure our Google rankings are good. We saw a 77% increase in traffic on our site last year over 2018. money well spent. It's nothing that Leslie and I can do, so it's something we have to have somebody do for us, and he's on top of it. We launched a blog under the Kent Up Close tab of our website, so it shows how to live like a local, eat like a local, shop like a local, stuff like that. That it creates an incredible amount of engagement in the community. People love to talk about that stuff. We're working with Kent State Student Media to better connect with our campus, and our Facebook following has surpassed 15,000 followers, and we have a 4.9 rating out of 5 on there. So we're not making people mad on social media. Knock on wood, yet. So signature events, Art and Wine Festival, 13th annual, was going great, and then it rained sideways for a couple hours. People's artwork was floating down the street in bins. We called it a day. I think I might have even cried. I remember texting some of my board members. I'm like, what do we do? Like, people are all over, and what do we do? So we called it. But we're actually healthy financially enough to where it didn't hurt us. We're good enough now where if we have something like that, we can fill in the gaps and not be hurt tremendously. So on the other hand, Oktoberfest, 6th annual, was our best year yet. We brought home net $30,000 that day.
Wow.
And then Wizardly World of Kent was a great success. We added a bar crawl, the Wobbly Wizard bar crawl. So if you add that to the 5K, we had over 700 people downtown on Friday night before the event. So we'll continue to fine tune and tweak that based on community feedback, business feedback, attendance of the event. But Myers Grocery Store came to us and said, can we please be a part of that? Because they are in Stowe now and moving into Brimfield, and they wanted to, so we asked them for $5,000 to help us throw the party, and they're coming to the table with that. So we're in good shape for this year. July 25th.
Oh, yeah, that one.
Moving on to design, our design committee decided to plant some tulips last spring around the Hometown Bank Plaza, and they bloomed, which was really exciting. And we planted them again, so they'll be hopefully coming up soon, but it really kind of highlights what Hometown does at their bank plaza. It's a beautiful place, and so much happens there over the season. It's kind of a nice way to bring it back to life after winter. We completed the mural project on Berbick Way, which is great collaboration with those 2 building owners and finding our artists from Kent State and a longtime family of Kent. So we look forward to doing the lights and having a reception for the whole project sometime in the spring once we get that together. And then we did the Historic Facades of Kent project, where we had our intern document and photograph all the buildings in the downtown district historically, what they were intended for when they were built, and then what their purpose was over time. He spent a year putting this together, and we thought, my gosh, we got to do something with this other than just have it be a thing that we did. So we will be publishing a book, hopefully before May 4th, and in support of like the Historical Society and everything. So. Moving on to our Business Enhancement Committee, we work a lot to get the businesses to collaborate and to do events that people to visit multiple businesses in one shot. So the art walks were pretty well attended. They seem to be building up a little bit of traction. We did a story walk with Kent City Schools. It was kind of a breakdown of one book where you put a page in each business and the family walks around and reads the story. So that was something new. We hosted a crime prevention workshop. Lieutenant Lewis hosted or kind of presented to lots of business owners about employee safety and how to handle people stealing out of your shop and surveillance and all that stuff, which was the dialogue between the police department and the business owners was the best part of that. So we're looking for new opportunities for that. And then for Small Business Saturday, we're always looking for a way to spice that up. So we put a giant inflatable snow globe at the Bank Plaza. The mayor came down, threw some snow at me, took pictures with the black squirrel, and we gave out free hot cocoa, and businesses gave away cookies and made ornaments, like trying to really come up with fun ways to get people more enticed to shop here because they have all these choices. So looking forward to 2020 as we're deep into first quarter here, obviously. We're sure that it's time we need to just keep upping our game. Our neighboring communities are revitalizing too. And some of the concepts we're seeing some oversaturation in some of the stuff that we do. Some stuff we used to sell out in 15 minutes, it takes a week now, and oh no, you know. So we're really looking for ways to think outside of the box, get some fresh ideas. Leslie and I will both be attending the National Main Street Conference in May in Texas. So we hope to learn and bring back some fresh ideas and shake things up a little bit. We will be applying for our 501c3, not as an organization, but as kind of an arm of our organization so that we can go after funds from charitable organizations, because right now we're tax exempt, but we're not charitable. So we think that'll help us expand our portfolio. The more money we have, the more we can do. We are focused on North Water Street with a couple things, one being public art, the other being we are working with Heritage Ohio. There was a state appropriation given to them to the tune of $200,000, and so all of the accredited Main Street programs in good standing, which we are able to apply for a portion of that to help businesses with projects that will improve their buildings or increase business and numbers of employees. So we're working with some businesses on North Water Street to be able to do that. So we're excited about that. We're in the process of exploring the idea, and I'm ashamed of myself for saying Explora and Dora at the same time, but the downtown outdoor refreshment area concept has been tried and true and tried and failed by lots of different organizations in the state. So we're doing our homework and looking to see who's doing what, how it's going, which days, which times, and really figuring out if this is something that makes sense for Kent, and talking to the retailers and the bars and the restaurants and city staff to see if this is something we need to move forward and try to get for the city of Kent. So we're working on that. And then there's this Kent Rainbow Weekend that's coming. So if you drive through town at 6:30 tomorrow morning, I'll be the one spray painting the crosswalk that you said we could do. So March 6th and 7th, here it all comes. We're having a welcome kickoff at the Venice at 5 on Friday. So I will be welcoming folks. Gwen is going to say a little thanks for coming on behalf of the city, and then somebody from Kent State as well. Because it's really, I think it's just, Kent's a very welcoming and inclusive town, and we need to make sure people know that. So you're invited. And then additionally, the NOPEC grant is helping us put that on. So thank you for putting that in Main Street's direction, because you know these things aren't free when we're trying to run events like this. So now I will just share with you a few comments from some of our business owners. One is Michael Fainall. He owns Squirrel City Jewelers, and he's been in business for 1 year. He said, as a fresh business in Kent, I'm continually impressed with MSK's ability to pull the downtown businesses together with cohesive efforts to keep the downtown thriving with visitors. When I think about how long they've been running, to see that the energy and momentum is still flourishing, that's in every way amazing. They help keep Kent a special place to be, and that's what really matters to me. Michelle Saar, which I'm sure we all know, Hop the Wagon, Red Letter Days, and Kent Cheesemonger. Main Street Kent has been instrumental in creating community in our downtown district, and that's essential to the success of our businesses. MSK makes that happen by building relationships through events that are open to the community, developing an expansive volunteer network, and strong relationships with businesses, committee volunteers, and board members. Our businesses are thriving, and we're committed to being a part of Main Street Kent in every way. And then last and short and sweet, Charlie Thomas from Ray's. Main Street Kent rocks, all caps. They do a tremendous job of promoting Kent and bringing people into the downtown. And I know they've been around a lot longer than any of us. So I just wanted to kind of share that. The businesses really embrace all the work that we do, and the majority of them really appreciate it. And we appreciate you supporting us so we can support them.
Thank you for all you guys do.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Do we have questions from council? Yes, Heidi.
I just wish, would you say when this was initiated again? I'm trying to remember when Main Street was.
2006.
2006. Okay, thanks. Wow.
Any more from council?
It's amazing. It's been in progress.
Yes,
that
Jack.
long, isn't it?
It's not a question, but, you know, there are lots of reasons to be proud of Kent, Ohio, and you are one of the ingredients that make people proud to live in this community. And thank you so much, you and Leslie both,
Thank you. Yep.
and all the volunteers, and even Tom.
Even Tom.
Any other questions from council? No? Anyone from the audience wish to comment or have a question? Back to council. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Heather.
Thank you. Wow.
Up next is the proposed 2020 CDBG action plan.
CDBG action plan.
That's what
Before I go through the CDBG projects, I want to introduce you to Kathy Petsko. She's our new grants and neighborhood programs coordinator. So she's took over for Dan. She is from Summit County and has experience with many of the federal grant programs. She's at Summit County after I had left, but worked on a lot of the same stuff. So I'm thrilled to have the help, and she's jumped in right away and been taking care of things. So hopefully she won't quit. I haven't been working her too hard. But anyways, I just want you to put a face to the name, and she'll be here next year introducing these projects like Dan used to do for you. So, I promised her I wouldn't make her speak tonight. So this is our program year 2020 CDBG funding for the action plan. And as I had mentioned at the public hearing, this action plan is actually going to be incorporated in our 5-year plan. Kathy is actually working on putting that together. She's sending out the surveys and the information that needs to be incorporated into that document. So these projects are aligned with what we anticipate to be those same objectives at our consolidated plan. We do not anticipate changing them much. For us, the primary objective will be to invest in areas that have high concentration of low-income households, as well as specific activities that benefit low-income, what they call limited clientele, groups that have been identified as being typically low-income. These have been our focus since about '09 with that consolidated plan, and it has served us well. We spend basically 100% of our funding on low to moderate income projects, with only a very small portion going for administration and fair housing. And in some years, we actually don't put any aside for administration because it's really hard to choose between the projects. So with that being said, the projects that we're proposing for the upcoming action plan are identified in the memo, but I will go through them briefly. We actually at this time do know our allocation. It is going to be $303,766. Sometimes when we are before you, we do not have that amount, but it literally came in about a week and a half ago. So we do know exactly how much we had to commit to the different projects. Our first project is actually through the City of Kent's Engineering Department. I've worked with Jim now for several years since we've made this change to our consolidated plan to invest in our low-income areas. We do have requirements where we can't hold too much money on time, so it's often a balancing act. Jim and I work together when we're getting close to those numbers, but we do stockpile bits out of each allocation so we can do these full-scale improvements in our highest concentration low-income area, which is in the south end part of the community. So this year's allocation will be $160,000 going towards the Walnut Street in between Cherry and Dodge. It'll be a full depth reconstruction like we've done in the other projects in that area. If you remember, we have done other streets such as Harris. So this will be the same. You won't see the work this year because we are still needing one more year's allocation, but we are trying to get them where they need to be. So it should go out to bid next year. Correct? Yes.
Do you have a question, Tracy?
Yeah. How many more streets in this area do you expect to refinish?
We could go for a while. It could be quite a few. We will be looking at that and talking about it with the engineering program. Because we do not have enough resources to redo all the roads, we tend to focus in the low mod areas. But we do have other low mod areas, though the highest percentages in that area. So I anticipate we're probably doing at least a couple more.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
So
you've done, what, 2 so far now?
this will be our third.
Yeah.
So the neighbors are a little reluctant with the disruption during the construction, but all of them are extremely pleased with the work once it is complete. It really does transform the areas. If you look at those streets that have been done, those sections of street that have been done compared to areas that have not, that don't have the sidewalk and the street tree improvements, it really is a drastic difference.
Yes.
We are also going to assist the Parks and Recreation Department, and I'm happy to say that Kevin submitted actually something that is a bricks and mortar project. Typically, we support them only with design fees for projects that benefit the entire community. So if any of you have been over to the Recreation Center, the parking lot there is in terrible condition and also makes ADA accessibility very limited. So they put in a request for the funding, and we are funding them at their full requested amount of $50,000. $15,000 to get that parking lot, which is key in that neighborhood and used by many children in that neighborhood, improved this year. Or next year. The City of Kent Police Department Neighborhood Policing Program has been ongoing. This increases the number of foot patrols in areas where we have higher calls for assistance and where we have basically subsidized housing. We are also continuing our funding of the furnace inspection targeted replacement program with Community Action Council. This program obviously is great to supplement our owner-occupied housing rehabilitation program. We often actually find group or applicants for this program because they need a furnace, and then through further discussions, we find out they need more assistance in their home, and we usually can assist them then with the rehab program. Family and Community Services, we provide them $15,000 towards Miller House, the emergency shelter. It is de minimis compared to what they actually need for operations. I can tell you shelter nights have done nothing but increase since I've been here on my 12th year. I wish I could report that they are actually going down, but they're not. And that increase also does include an increase in the number of families that are needing emergency shelter services. So obviously the amount that we provide is limited because we can only do so much with CDBG 2 public service projects, but we do make that commitment to them every year. We're also assisting Family and Community Services with putting in a new kitchen at Miller House. It is the existing kitchen. It has not been updated or changed. So we will be taking out an antiquated cabinetry, putting in something that will allow for the storage of more materials. The kitchen there, if you've ever been there, it actually is set up almost like a house kitchen, which is fine, but they really could use some better storage, maybe some larger appliances, and they do get a lot of use. So that is a project that we're going to be funding them with $30,000 out of our actual CDBG allocation, but we also have $10,000 in unprogrammed funds that were released from other projects that were completed under budget in prior years that we're going to commit to them so that they can get the full amount needed to update that kitchen. We also will be continuing our services for the Ohio Small Business Development Center. This is where we work with them to provide small business counseling to low to moderate income residents who are interested in starting a new business. We will also be putting a very small amount to administration, a little over $6,700, and then as always, $19,000 to fair housing, because as a recipient of federal funds, we are required to provide fair housing services, which is available not only to all of our residents, but to any tenants that are available in our community. So at this point, I can take questions if anyone has it. As a reminder, we're not going to take action on this tonight. This report was to inform you of what we're doing, but we still need to go through another public hearing and a 30-day comment period before we'll be able to approve this in May.
All right, sounds good. Any questions from council? Oh, yes, Roger.
Bridget, I'm just kind of curious. The Small Business Development Center, do you have any idea of the numbers of people who take advantage of that?
Well, I can tell you that Susan McGann, we actually provide in-kind service. I'm not sure if you're aware, but they are based in our office for all of Portage County. Right. So the amount of assistance that's provided is often outside of that comes through CDBG. Okay. So she is busy. She meets with Tom and her actually meet with several businesses that are looking at up and coming, but they may not be low income. So at that point, they don't receive the CDBG assistance, but that Small Business Development Center services are still provided, and she provides everything from business planning to helping them look at P&L pages, payroll, how to set up, and all that.
So if I understand it correctly, we provide a whole gamut of services.
Correct.
This is just one piece of it.
Correct, exactly.
Thank you.
Yes, Tracy.
What did we get allotted last year for CDBG?
It was $277.
Oh, so we got more this year then.
Yes, we did. We actually got $20,000 more than last year, a little shy of $20,000, which I was surprised and delighted with.
Yeah.
Kathy is new to this, but I told her, be excited, because usually they cut us.
Exciting.
Anyone else from council? Does anyone from the audience have anything they'd like to say? All right, thank you very much, Bridget.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, we're in the Finance Committee. Mr. DeLeone is absent. Ms. Wallach, will you?
Okay, I guess we're just going to accept and approve $150,000 OD&A Trails grant. Who's that?
Yep,
What's on?
yep. So Kathy gets credit for the 20,000 more in the funding, and Kevin gets $150,000 credit. At least I tried to convince him to take credit for it. He sort of did.
Thank you, John Idoni.
Yeah, he was saying, it's really John. Like, don't say that. That's not what you're supposed to say. It was all me.
We
So,
never thank John.
so it's good news, and I'll let Kevin tell you.
Yeah, this is kind of the fruition of a resolution council passed last year for us to apply for a ODNR Recreation Trails Program grant. We got notification in February that we did receive the $150,000. This is for the Brady Trail project from Main Street Bridge towards Crane Street Bridge. It's about 1,000 feet. We also got a $700,000 AMATS grant, and Jim Bowling from engineering and Rhonda are a big part of that. They actually make that application. So I think it just shows city departments working together, realizing the park department's kind of on our little island out here, but we have a bridge, over to the city, and there's a lot of help back and forth. So with their help, we were able to do this project much sooner than we would have ever done with just using grants I could have gotten or park funds. At the end of the day, the park fund will probably put in about 18% of the budget. The budget's around 1.2 million, and we'll probably have around $180,000 tied up in the project, which is really good. We can get a project like this done with just 18% of our park fund monies. So then I'm really just asking for council to approve for me to sign an agreement with ODNR to allow us to proceed with getting the $150,000 grant. I realize it's just the committee meeting, but.
Okay, Heidi?
Yeah, does this include the bike stair?
It does. The project includes the bike stair, widening the project to a 10-foot concrete path, doing some lighting along the path with some of the trees, new landscaping. Kind of will make it much more accessible too from people using the path to get up to Main Street to go downtown and use the businesses down there. So it's a really exciting project. And also the stairs also have a bike ramp in the middle, so you can actually push your bike up and push it down.
I'm looking forward to not having to go all the way around.
Yeah, it's going to be great.
So also, there'll be some deck removal. Will you be putting some decking in? Because
Yes,
I think it's-
we're going to
and-
put a
and
new
also-
observation deck in. We're taking out the existing, and we'll be putting in a new observation deck. There's also some really exciting signage that our consultant came up with, and I think Jim Bowling and them were involved in that, but some really nice signage that really will, I think, lift up the community and the kind of signs we're putting up. It's really, really nice, so.
would you be able to put trash and recycling receptacles along the trail?
Yes, we could.
That would
We're
be.
not going to, but we could. I'm just kidding.
Oh. We never have enough, let me tell you, because I pick up trash along that stretch
Yeah.
from time to time, and
It fits right in.
yeah, it could, I
I
think
know
that
we
could really
go
be
down
used.
there every Monday and really check out the trail for garbage and all that sort of thing, but it's heavily used now, but I think with the widening, it's going to be even more accessible to everybody.
It's in the water down
Anybody else from council? Anybody from the audience, there any comments, questions? Back to council?
Move to authorize.
Second.
Move to, I guess we would be accepting the grant funds with emergency.
Thank you.
Oh, we're not done yet. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No, thank you.
Now you're.
Thanks, Kevin.
Heidi took over.
Okay, then we have another grant application proposed.
Yes. And this one is a grant, although they sort of already told us you're eligible if you come up with a project that fits our criteria for up to 65, something like that. So I know we've had a series of meetings looking at different possibilities for NOPEC funding, which since it's NOPEC, it's energy conservation basically. So we've always got more needs than we have funding for, so it's always great to get a little bonus. And I think we can make an impact, at least at the water reclamation plan, I think is where we ended up with, right? So Melanie, you can fill them in.
Yeah, basically what we're asking for tonight is simply asking council's approval to accept the NOPEC Energized Community Grant. This year, the amount is $65,550. If you recall, we also did this in 2018 and 2019. respectively for each year. And this will be the first year that we're going to actually utilize those funds. Harrison and I are working on applying for that money, or to use that money, and it will be used at the water reclamation plant, both for a boiler upgrade, and that will be more energy efficient for the entire plant, as well as 2 return pumps at the plant, which gets the effluent back into the plant so that it can be taken care of. That is also on the energy efficiency side.
Questions from council? Questions from the audience? Back to council.
Move to approve
Second.
with emergency.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Next.
Well, this isn't money coming in. So I'll let Bridget just tell you.
So I received a phone call, and it was from a daughter of the owner of a property, a former owner of a property at 1501 Franklin. So she was in her 60s, the daughter that called me, her mom's in her 80s. Back in 2016, she sold the home because she needed to transition into a nursing facility. The sale occurred with a quitclaim deed. And for a quick reminder, a quitclaim deed means you do not do a title search. So it's basically sold and transferred without any search, where if you normally did a arm's length transaction, there would be a title search. Fast forward 3 years, the owner who bought it for $20,000 back in 2016 is now trying to sell the property. The current potential buyers did have a title search done, and 2 loans that were issued for owner-occupied rehabilitation services back done in 1995 for Mrs. Shanley were identified. The transition to the new owners cannot occur until this matter is dealt with. Now, Mrs. Shanley's on Medicaid and in a nursing home. Our mortgage documents are identified that if you sell or transfer the properties, which are recorded, that the loans are due at the time of sale. Because they are a deferred loan, and it seems like there may have been some confusion with an uncle who used to work at the city, although no one seems to know that uncle's name, had advised him that it was a grant. So at the time the quitclaim deed was done, Mrs. Shanley and her daughter and the other relatives assumed that there was no loans. Well, legally, right now, Mrs. Shanley in the nursing home is legally responsible for those. That being said, we will not, if we took any legal action, be able to recoup any or all of those funds. There also is the fact that, if you remember, back in 2015, we made a transition to our owner-occupied rehabilitation loan program to convert 75% of that to a grant, and that was based on changes that had been made by the state of Ohio with regards to recipients, communities like the city of Kent, of their CHIP funds. So while she got her loan ahead of that, we did not make it retroactive, mind you, she still would owe over $4,000. She cannot afford that either. Medicaid, $18,000 is her annual income. She's actually well below that. I'm not going to disclose, but I can tell you there's no means for this loan to be settled. So I am here to ask for basically a loan forgiveness to release Mrs. Shanley from the legal liability of this debt service so that we can file a satisfaction of mortgage releasing those loans and allowing the sale on that property to go forward.
And if I could throw in too, it's not general fund money.
No.
So I mean, we care about any money, but certainly general fund, this is very specific funds that it's part of her loan portfolio, right? So it's
Revolving loan funds. So as new loans, we do get seed money, obviously, through CHIP, and we obviously back in Gary's days had CDBG to start, but once the loans are paid off, they're put back in. We have about an average of a little over $1 million in our loan portfolio in outstanding loans that they sit dormant until the time when transfer of sale or a death.
Questions from council? Shaffer?
What's the appraised value of the house, do you know?
I do not. I have it on. I honestly, I will tell you, I didn't look because it really is moot. We cannot go after the house. We can only go after the owner because she no longer holds title. So I talked to Hope, and there should have been some due diligence done. I will tell you that there is frustration as a person that deals with low-income housing and projects that assist those most in need, that certain steps should have been taken. That being said, even though that owner should not have offered to purchase it through a quitclaim deed and should have done the title search, I do think perhaps because it was, I'm understanding, a $20,000 cash deal, that it was needed in order to move Mrs. Shanley into the nursing facility. So I can't go back and recreate what happened or occurred, and we have no, I have not even reached out to the owner of that property because we have nothing we can go with them to even negotiate. The mortgages are with Mrs. Shanley. The financial liability is with her and her alone.
But the new owner actually benefited from this. Do we have some ways to protect ourselves in the future? Can we put like that there was a need?
There is. We actually, when we actually, this I can tell you, the loan portfolio dates back to the late 80s. I've been here this is my 12th year. I have never had a situation like this. 99.9% of all transactions, either through death or transfer of deed, are done as an arm's length transaction, which involves a title search, and they are identified. We record all our mortgages, so we are protected in that realm. But a private deal that happens like this is not something that government can ever protect against. This was basically an offer of $20,000 was made. We'll do it through a quitclaim deed. Anyone could file a quitclaim deed. There is absolutely no legal liability. You just sign it. I mean, I could quitclaim deed my house to Dave. I never would, but I could if I wanted to, and no one would even know. We would record. It would be recorded, and it could be done for $0.
But then Dave would be, ultimately, he couldn't be able to sell the property.
Yeah, he has deed.
Yeah.
He has the title. He owns it. I no longer own it, but
She got out from underneath her responsibility.
right. So he would own the home. When you do a quitclaim deed, you are literally granting ownership of your property to that buyer as is. It is not a transaction that is normally done. And after talking to Mrs. Shanley's daughter, who is elderly herself, or older, I should say, there's great confusion. There's great confusion with regards to how the program was run. They didn't understand that there was mortgages recorded. They thought they were grants because of this uncle who supposedly worked at the city as a director, which no one seems to know. So there was a lot of it seems like communication disconnect. But going back, this is the only one. The only other time that we've actually had a situation where we've lost money on a loan is when someone goes into foreclosure. And that is a legal process. It goes through that process. Our mortgage is stacked in those documents. We're usually in second position. If we subordinate, maybe third. We typically don't receive it, but it goes through that legal channel. So that is the only time our loan portfolio has had a situation. This is an anomaly. It is not normal where people transfer a property using a quitclaim deed. I would never recommend it.
Any other questions from council? Questions from the audience? Back to council?
She died 2 weeks ago?
Oh.
Mrs. Shanley?
Her daughter has her in a nursing home, so no, she did not. I just spoke to her.
Gerald's mother?
No, this is not that same Mrs.
not the
Shanley.
same family.
No, it's not. It's a different family. And I will need this with emergency.
Any other questions? Okay, back to council?
Move to authorize with the emergency.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you. I will call Mrs. Shanley's daughter tomorrow. She's been very,
Lesson learned.
very large lesson learned.
Thanks.
Next up, budget appropriations.
Well, she's last, but it's her first time to be last, so we can't feel too bad about it, but
Get used to it.
save the best for
Now
last.
she's got it. Dave never said that.
I would like to request council to approve the amended appropriations that I submitted to the city manager in a memo dated February 25th. I would like to note that I have one correction already.
Uh-oh.
So,
Something new.
yeah. Fund 136, the CHIP grant, the amount of the increase should be $100,000. That's a grant amount that is just starting. It was a new fund that was created, not the 7,400. So that will be corrected for the appropriation ordinance for next time. If there's any questions, I can
Any
answer.
questions from council?
What was the correction, if I could ask?
Fund 136?
What was the correction to? Sorry.
Fund 136, which
Right.
is the CHIP grant, to 100,000.
Oh, to 100,000,
Yes.
thank you.
Yes.
Any questions from the audience? Okay, back to council.
Move to authorize.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
One.
Opposed?
Thanks.
With that, we're adjourned. Thank you.
Forgot discussion.
Too funny. Yeah, so
Putting all the documentation along with that. How nice is that? We actually
Yeah, the
understand.
reason I asked about the small business is that
it's not alone there.
I know.
I've seen it on the silver others there. It's all right. You want money? How are you, Billy? Oh, forgiven. They're not forgiving you.
Comment.
So that's not Gerald?
I'd be online, I'd be asking you,
Contacted by
anything.
That's why. Yeah, I don't know. I was assuming it was somehow related to Gerald.
They're probably related.
About we don't